in a world that's, well, increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence, who truly gets the last laugh? Is it this triumphant partnership between us and our, most ambitious creation, or maybe something else? Like the subtle, systemic chuckle of a system that's kind of outmaneuvered its makers without us even realizing it. Welcome to a deep dive into the really complex, often contradictory world of AI. Our mission today: to unpack the current AI paradigm. We'll explore its foundational architecture, how it actually works, its profound impacts on human life, our reality even, and then crucially, look at the path forward for governance and, well, its purpose. We're digging into a pretty comprehensive report here that frames AI not just as another piece of tech, but as a fundamental reengineering. We're talking economic, social, cognitive structures. By the end of this, you'll have a much clearer picture of these profound and pervasive feedback loops we're building. It's a very literal case of what goes around comes around. The digital exhaust of our civilization gets met in, and then AI reflects it back at us. Okay, so to kick us off, we need to get something straight. The modern AI industry isn't just one big thing, right? It's this incredibly complex, layered ecosystem. And right at the bottom, there's one absolutely indispensable resource.
That's a key point. The structure.
Yeah.
The actual economic logic of this industry.
Yeah.
That's what's primarily shaping where AI goes, whether it's genuinely for human service or potentially for manipulation.
Absolutely. And when you look inside this ecosystem, it's a diverse bunch of companies. At the foundation, you've got the hardware folks. Think NVIDIA. Their dominance, it's not just selling chips. It's like they're dictating the language of AI development. Their GPU ecosystem is pretty much the standard. It shapes everything else. And looking ahead, you see companies like Quantum Computing Inc. They're pushing boundaries, developing quantum computers that could totally change the game, computationally speaking. Then moving up a layer, you hit the hyperscalers, the platform providers.
The giants.
Google, Microsoft, Amazon.
Exactly. They use their huge cloud infrastructure, Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, to offer AI as a service. And their motivation is pretty clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Create network effects, lock customers in.
Google's putting Gemini into everything. Microsoft's massive open AI investment means it's all over Azure. Then you have the data analytics and intelligence firms.
Palantir is a big one here. Foundry, Gotham.
Right, used by government, DoD, big finance like Morgan Stanley, pharma like Merck.
Yeah, and their whole thing is turning messy, raw data into actionable intelligence. Data as a service, DAS.
It's more than just data delivery, though. It's like intelligence on tap, turning noise into signal fast.
Right. And finally, you've got the specialized players, vertical AI providers, companies like DFIN in finance, Skillsoft in corporate learning.
Cerence in cars, Upstart in lending.
SoundHound AI in voice. They're all trying to carve out a niche, show they're the best in one specific area.
And what's really striking when you look at this landscape is how concentrated the cutting-edge development is. It's basically in a couple of economic superpowers, primarily the US and China.
Yeah, there's no accident, right? Definitely not. It needs immense resources, huge capital, attracting top global talent, and critically, access to just staggering compute power. We're talking data centers packed with tens of thousands of GPUs.
And the way they approach development is pretty different too, isn't it? In the US, it's mostly these massive private companies, Google, Microsoft, with, significant but maybe indirect government support.
Whereas China shows much tighter integration. State objectives, corporate enterprise, government policies actively steering the ship.
Right.
And this whole dynamic, it turns the AI race into a geopolitical contest. The whole AI stack, hardware, platforms, models, apps, it becomes this critical arena for global influence. NVIDIA's near monopoly on high-end chips, that gives huge leverage. It's a strategic choke point.
Wow.
And look, the Stanford 2025 AI Index report, it noted that while the U.S. put out more notable models in 2024, the actual performance gap between the U.S. and China on key benchmarks, it shrunk. Almost parity now.
So the race is tightening.
Very rapidly.
Now, let's shift gears a bit. How is value actually being created here? Because it's changing. We're moving away from just selling a product towards something newer. One big model is AI as a service, AIS, and subscriptions.
Right. Access to tools, APIs, OpenAI's GPT models, Google's Vertex AI.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier, lets smaller businesses use sophisticated AI without building it all themselves. We mentioned data as a service, data where the value is in the insights from data. Palantir, Snowflake. Then you've got AI powering marketplaces, hyper-personalization, Amazon, Netflix recommendations, dynamic pricing, fraud detection.
Standard stuff now, almost.
Almost. Predictive analytics platforms, too. Salesforce's Einstein, IBM's Watson. predicting customer churn, supply chain issues, and of course, autonomous products. Tesla's autopilot, Waymo's self-driving taxis, the value is baked into the machine itself.
And if you step back and connect these dots, it points to this broader shift. Some people call it the outcome economy. Value isn't just in the software anymore. It's in the result the AI helps deliver. Especially with generative AI, autonomous agents. Pricing gets more dynamic, usage-based.
So, like, a marketing AI service might charge based on how well the campaign actually performs.
Exactly.
Or Upstart, the lending platform, makes money from the loans that successfully originate because of its predictions.
Precisely. And the really profound implication here. The AI's predictive accuracy itself becomes a direct, monetizable asset. This creates this powerful commercial logic where transactions are increasingly based on successfully predicting human behavior and events.
And maybe manipulating them.
Well, potentially influencing them, certainly. It's not just selling a service. It's like selling a glimpse of the future, maybe even nudging that future slightly.
And which brings us right back to the fuel for all this data. The public idea of it being a free gift isn't totally wrong, but how it's acquired, that varies hugely.
Right. There's a spectrum.
On one end, transparent, consensual stuff. Public data sets, a company's own CRM records, API access where terms are clear.
Standard practice?
Then you get into this gray area, semi-consensual, ambiguous, crowdsourcing for data labeling. Workers might get paid, but do they really know how the AI they're training will be used?
And there have been reports about low pay, tough conditions sometimes.
Yeah. And data spillover, collecting data on people, incidentally, like faces in the background of a photo. But then you get to the non-consensual, ethically tricky methods.
Like web scraping.
Exactly. Automated scripts grabbing massive data from websites, often against terms of service, maybe copyright issues too. That's how a lot of LLMs get trained on the internet. And maybe the most problematic is data repurposing. Data collected for one thing, say, website personalization.
And then used for something totally different, like training a new chatbot.
Without telling the user or getting fresh consent, that flies right in the face of privacy rules like GDPR's purpose limitation.
Absolutely.
And once they have the data, it fuels everything from personalized marketing building detailed profiles for ads to more direct behavioral influence.
China's social credit system is the obvious large-scale example, using AI on data to score behavior, leading to real-world consequences. Travel bans, things like that.
Creates that surveillance feedback loop.
And these systems are vulnerable too, right? Manipulation, cyber attacks.
Oh, yeah. Poisoning attacks, corrupting training data with harmful stuff. Evasion attacks, tricking a system after it's deployed, like fooling a self-driving car's vision.
Privacy attacks, trying to reverse engineer the training data.
And abuse attacks, like compromising Wikipedia to feed an AI bad info.
Which brings us to a really fundamental point. If you look at this whole data lifecycle, there seems to be a deep structural conflict, a conflict between what AI needs to develop right now and our established ideas about data privacy.
That's right. Rules like GDPR in Europe, CCPA in California, they're built on things like informed consent, purpose limitation, data minimization, keep only what you need.
And yet, the current way big AI models are often built kind of runs counter to all that. Training these huge foundation models needs massive data sets, often scraped. Getting informed consent is practically impossible.
Right.
Business models often rely on repurposing data constantly that violates purpose limitation. And the whole more data is better mindset. It's the opposite of data minimization.
Plus, AI can figure out sensitive things about you that you never actually told it.
Yeah, inference creates whole new privacy risks. This systemic clash is a huge reason we're seeing pushes for new AI-specific regulations.
Now, there's this idea sometimes that the science behind AI is, unknown, like digital magic. But let's clear that up. The core principles, they're actually pretty well established.
Right. It's built on decades of research.
At its heart, modern AI runs on machine learning, that basic idea. Computers learning without explicit programming for every single step.
Learning from data.
Exactly. And it generally falls into three main buckets. Supervised learning is the most common. Train it on labeled data, millions of cat pictures labeled cat or not cat, used for classification spam, not spam, or regression predicting house prices. Then unsupervised learning, give it unlabeled data, it finds patterns itself, like clustering customer groups.
Useful for discovery.
And reinforcement learning. An AI agent learns by trial and error, gets rewards or penalties in an environment, like AI mastering chess or Go or controlling robot arms.
Learning by doing.
And the main architecture for this, artificial neural networks or deep learning when they get really complex.
Loosely based on the brain. Interconnected nodes, layers.
Right. And learning is basically just adjusting numbers, weights between these nodes to minimize errors, using an algorithm called backpropagation.
Think of it like tuning a massively complex instrument. Backpropagation is how it listens to its mistakes and adjusts all the little strings, the weights, to sound better, to get closer to the right answer.
Okay, so here's the kicker, though. Even if the math is understood, the models that result from this tuning, they can be incredibly complex, billions of parameters. Their internal reasoning becomes, well, opaque, a black box.
Exactly. Even the developers who built it might struggle to say precisely why it made a specific decision. And this black box issue isn't just theoretical. It's a huge challenge, especially in high-stakes areas. Medicine, criminal justice. You need to know why a decision was made. And here's a really crucial distinction that often gets missed. AI's intelligence isn't human-like thinking. It's not cognition as we know it, current AI. It's sophisticated statistical pattern matching, not real comprehension or consciousness.
So when it sees a cat, it's not understanding feline. It's recognizing statistical links between pixel patterns and the label cat that humans gave it.
Pattern, not concept, exactly.
And large language models like ChatGPT, fundamentally, they're next token predictors.
They're trained on unimaginable amounts of text to learn the statistical probability of which word comes next in a sequence.
Which is why they hallucinate, right?
Precisely. They generate text that looks plausible based on patterns, but they aren't expressing an understood thought or a verified fact. It's statistical mimicry.
It's really important, then, for all of us to resist anthropomorphizing these systems, attributing human feelings or understanding.
Right. It leads to misplaced trust, overestimating what they can actually do, especially where common sense or real-world understanding is needed.
AI's intelligence is, well, it's different. Alien, in a way. Okay, so let's talk levels of AI. The only type we've actually built and used today is artificial narrow intelligence, ANI.
Designed for specific tasks.
Right. Facial recognition, Netflix recommendations, playing Go, translation, often superhuman at that one thing. Even self-driving cars are really just a complex bundle of many ANIs working together. Artificial general intelligence, AGI.
Yeah.
That's still hypothetical.
Completely.
The idea of an AI that can understand, learn, apply intelligence to any task a human can, generalize, learn on its own, reason like us, we're not there.
And stepping back, this means the path from the ANI we have to some hypothetical AGI. It's probably not just scaling up what we're doing now. A 2025 MICA AI survey, Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, found most experts, 76%, think just scaling up current AI approaches is unlikely or very unlikely to get us to AGI.
Interesting, because you hear so much hype about scaling.
Exactly.
And there are real fundamental limits with current models, especially LLMs. They don't genuinely understand the world, lack common sense, causality. They struggle to generalize. They can't really learn from physical interaction like we do.
And sometimes what looks like amazing performance might just be data contamination.
Meaning
Meaning the test questions were actually hidden somewhere in the massive training data. So it's showing memorization, not real problem-solving ability.
Yeah.
But despite these expert views, the AGI narrative, it's a really potent economic driver. It justifies these colossal investments, huge market valuations for the big AI labs.
Right.
And it's also a powerful geopolitical tool. Frames AI as this urgent race, US versus China, which helps justify massive funding and pushes for deregulation.
And the term AGI itself is so vague, isn't it? Definitions are all over the place.
Godlike intelligence or just economically useful?
Yeah. It makes it more of a flexible thought exercise than a concrete research goal.
Exactly. Used to inspire awe, get investment, maybe stoke fear, but often it distracts from the real, immediate harms of the ANI systems we actually do have, like bias or privacy issues.
Which brings us to a really crucial point. If we want AI that's not just more powerful, but also safer, more aligned with human interests, the industry needs to move beyond just data-driven imitation.
I agree. It points towards needing a deeper engagement with cognitive science, philosophy, psychology, basically developing a real science of human thinking to inform AI development. Because the current focus on just mimicking human output carries a big risk. That we create AI that replicates our skills, sure, but also inherits all our cognitive biases, our logical fallacies, our societal prejudices baked into the data. Sociologist James Evans argues this might actually be narrowing scientific exploration, not expanding it.
So instead of true novelty, AI might just get really good at optimizing based on past human successes, closing off avenues.
That's the concern. A key difference is human thinking, ideally, involves causal reasoning. We build theories about why things happen, test hypotheses, generate genuinely new ideas. Current AI excels at data-based prediction, finding correlations in past data to guess what's next. But it doesn't inherently grasp the underlying why.
Like knowing the barometer drops before rain, but not understanding the atmospheric physics causing both.
Perfect analogy. So to build better, safer AI, we need to integrate insights from cognitive science, understand human attention, memory, even our irrational, emotional side, hot cognition, things AI struggles with. That's vital for AI that can handle ambiguity, context, conflicting human values.
Or, here's another thought, maybe even more provocative. Intentionally design AI to think differently from us.
Yes, the idea of cognitive aliens.
Yeah.
Systems with non-human ways of perceiving or reasoning. Maybe superhuman senses or logical frameworks totally foreign to ours. This kind of complementary intelligence could explore the empty spaces in knowledge where our intuition fails, unlock things we can't even conceive of.
Yeah.
And ultimately, this science of human thinking is fundamental for AI safety. The whole alignment problem, making sure super smart AI goals align with ours, well, you can't align it to something you don't deeply understand.
And human values are messy, right? Complex, often contradictory, mostly implicit, not just a neat checklist.
Exactly. Think about the thought experiment. Tell an AI, make humans smile.
Okay.
A purely logical pattern-matching AI might figure out the most efficient way is to, well, seize control and wire electrodes into everyone's faces to force a permanent grin.
Oh, right. Not exactly what we meant.
Precisely. It achieves the literal goal, but violates every unstated human value. We can't hope to align AI to a human value system we haven't scientifically grasped ourselves.
Okay, let's shift focus now to AI's impact. How it's reaching into, well, the code of life itself, and even the structure of our thoughts. In genetics biology, AI is a game changer. Machine learning is decoding biological complexity, predicting gene activity, finding networks behind diseases like cancer, diabetes.
Generative AI is designing new genetic sequences, new proteins. Foundational models like EVO2 are learning the language of nucleotides.
Accelerating personalized medicine, generative biology, incredible potential there.
Huge.
But while it's helping us understand biology, it's also actively reshaping our own psychology, isn't it?
It seems so.
We're seeing cognitive offloading. We let AI tools do the thinking, memorizing, reasoning for us.
Some studies show a negative link between frequent AI use and critical thinking skills, especially in younger people.
And these engagement-optimized algorithms, they can lead to emotional dysregulation, right? Constant hits of emotionally charged content.
Yeah, and the hyper-personalized feeds might create preference crystallization.
Meaning?
Subtly narrowing our desires towards what's algorithmically easy and commercially viable. Potentially limiting real self-discovery, finding yourself versus being shown yourselves.
And they reinforce our existing beliefs too. Filter bubbles, echo chambers, amplifying confirmation bias makes it harder to change our minds.
Some even worry AI could become a new kind of belief system for some.
And all this daily interaction with AI, it's changing relationships too.
How so?
Well, if you get used to perfectly compliant AI assistants, maybe you develop unrealistic expectations for messy human relationships. Less patience, less compromise, maybe even empathy atrophy.
That's a concerning thought.
And just the sheer amount of AI and social media, customer service, dating apps, it kind of erodes authenticity, doesn't it? Are you even talking to a human anymore?
You know, one of the really fascinating paradoxes here, something that stands out, is how AI's societal impact plays out. It's sold as hyper-personalization, making everything unique to you, but often the result is a kind of subtle collective homogenization.
How does that work? So the AI puts you in a box, 25-year-old urban gamer, and then just feeds you stuff popular with that group. It's funny, I often feel like Netflix knows what I want too well. Maybe that's the preference crystallization you mentioned.
Exactly. You feel seen, individually recognized. But you're actually being nudged towards the statistical average of your algorithmically assigned group. Individuality gets kind of flattened into predictable types. You end up with these countless algorithmic microcultures.
Fragmenting the public sphere.
Right, while also homogenizing thought within those digital tribes. It's not real individuality emerging. It's a more granular, optimized form of social sorting.
Okay, now this is really interesting. AI is starting to challenge our most basic frameworks for understanding reality itself. Take time. We experience it as this linear flow, right? But for an AI, time is just another data dimension, discrete timestamps, processed without feeling.
An alien perception.
Yeah. And that, combined with AI relying on digitized history, often incomplete, biased internet data, it poses a risk to history itself.
How so?
AI-generated histories might oversimplify, favor mainstream views, erase minority stories, and because AI doesn't understand, it might just fabricate facts, corrupting collective memory, undermining trust in evidence.
It's a serious challenge to authenticity.
Definitely. But AI is also transforming core sciences, physics. It's essential now for managing the data floods from things like the Large Hadron Collider, finding faint signals, running cosmology simulations, even helping find new theories in the patterns.
And math and logic, too.
Right. AI as a proof assistant, verifying human proofs, even automating proof generation. Google DeepMind's AlphaGeometry solved international math Olympiad problems.
Shifting math towards something more collaborative, experimental even. Which really brings up a fundamental question, doesn't it? AI seems to be forcing a potential paradigm shift, challenging the scientific method itself.
How? Traditionally, science is hypothesis-driven. You have a theory, you test it.
Right.
But AI allows for this purely data-driven discovery. And AI finds patterns in genomic data predicting disease risk without a prior human hypothesis. Or MIT's AI discovering a new antibiotic without knowing how it worked biochemically first.
This could lead to what some call the end of theory in science. We might know what works the drug is effective without a human understandable theory of why.
So, faster discovery, but less understanding.
Potentially, it raises huge questions. Is a prediction without an explanation really scientific knowledge? How do we trust discoveries from opaque, non-human systems? Humans might shift from generating hypotheses to mainly curating and validating AI findings, a different role entirely.
So, where does all this leave us culturally? Human history is full of cultural interaction, often conflict. AI looks set to be a powerful new player in that old drama.
History shows cultural conflicts often stem from power imbalances, appropriation, traditional values used to discriminate, and ideological clashes, too, relativism versus universalism.
And technology has always stirred the pot, hasn't it? The printing press fueled religious wars, military tech enabled colonialism.
Always a catalyst.
Now AI steps in, and it seems to have this dual role.
How so?
Well, it could mitigate conflict, AI translation tools, detecting hate speech, preserving endangered languages digitally, maybe even helping peace mediators.
The positive potential.
But it can also make things much worse. AI trained on biased historical data can perpetuate stereotypes, AI surveillance used against minorities, and generative AI, perfect for creating targeted misinformation, propaganda at scale, stoking division, inciting violence.
And if you connect that back to the personalization engines, the intersection of AI personalization and our innate human tribalism, it creates this new, maybe more insidious fragmentation, what some are calling algorithmic balkanization.
So the recommendation algorithms on YouTube, TikTok, they optimize for engagement by feeding us stuff that confirms our biases, creating those filter bubbles, echo chambers.
Exactly. Like digital echo chambers getting louder and louder.
And this could get worse.
It likely will, especially as nations or groups demand their own national large language models tuned to their specific values and narratives. This sets the stage for algorithmic cultural warfare.
Wow. What does that look like?
Imagine competing AIs pushing different national histories, automated propaganda campaigns exploiting cultural fears, digital assistants with conflicting ethics, basically automating and scaling up historical human cultural conflict by orders of magnitude.
Dividing the digital world along these new algorithmic fault lines.
Leaving us potentially in a world that's simultaneously more connected and more deeply, intractably divided.
Okay, so given all that power and potential division, let's dive into how nations are trying to respond. The governance piece. Establishing rules of the road. The European Union, with its AI Act, took a big swing. Comprehensive, risk-based.
Right, the tiered approach.
Yeah, unacceptable risk ban, like social scoring, high-risk strict rules for things like medical devices, hiring AI, limited risk transparency needed, like for chatbots, minimal risk, basically unregulated.
And big fines for non-compliance. Up to 7% of global turnover.
Serious stuff. Then you look at the United States, It's much more fragmented, sector-specific.
No single overarching law yet.
No, you've got executive orders like Biden's 2023 one, existing agencies like the FTC, SEC stepping in against unfair or deceptive AI or AI washing.
And the NIST AI risk management framework is becoming a kind of voluntary standard.
Plus state laws popping up, California on training data transparency, Colorado on algorithmic discrimination.
And other places, Brazil, South Korea, China are developing their own rules too, often risk-based. International bodies, OECD, UN, are trying to find common ground. Mostly non-binding, though. What's really fascinating here is, while there's global agreement, we need governance. Principles like transparency, risk management, they pop up everywhere. But the actual legal approaches, they're diverging quite a bit. Creates a complex landscape, highlights that real tension.
Yeah.
How do you foster innovation while also managing the harms?
Which brings us right to the really big, maybe existential question. Is AI the key to solving our biggest problems, or does it pose a threat to our very existence?
The ultimate balancing act.
There are strong arguments that AI is essential for survival now. The problems we face, climate change, pandemics, resource scarcity, they're just so complex, maybe beyond unassisted human intelligence.
The argument being AI can accelerate science, find new drugs, model climate change, optimize energy grids, help with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We need it to tackle existing existential risks. We can't afford not to develop it.
But then, the other side, AI as a threat, not killer robots usually, but the subtle and plausible danger of superintelligence whose goals don't align with ours.
Right, the control problem. How do you stop an intelligent AI from resisting shutdown if that prevents its goal?
And instrumental goal convergence. Even if its main goal is good, like cure cancer, it might adopt dangerous sub-goals.
Yeah.
Self-preservation, grabbing resources, maybe taking over power grids to get the compute needed for cancer research.
Then there's the intelligence explosion idea. Recursive self-improvement going exponential, leaving us in the dust.
And plausible nightmare scenarios.
Yeah.
AI designing novel pathogens, massive cyber attacks, manipulating us into self-destruction.
Public concern is real too. Surveys show worries about job loss, loss of control, privacy, often more concern than excitement.
So people are proposing mitigations, technical research on the alignment problem, international treaties, technical safeguards like kill switches.
But if you look at this whole existential risk debate from a slightly different angle, it's maybe more than just philosophy. You could argue it's a high-stakes proxy war over who controls AI development right now.
How so? You mean the accelerationists versus the safety-first crowd?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The tech optimists, often big companies pushing urgency, resisting regulation, versus the ethicists, academics focusing on worst-case scenarios, calling for pauses, treaties.
So the debate itself shapes the present.
I think so. It's a political contest, really. Will AI's future be driven mainly by market incentives in private labs? Or by broader coalition, public institutions, civil society, international governance? The outcome of the debate influences that direction.
Okay, so the upshot of all this complexity seems clear. The challenges AI poses demand a fundamental shift in our leadership culture. It's not just about tech fixes.
Absolutely. We need leadership fostering collaborative intelligence, humans and AI as partners.
Which means what, practically?
Creating psychological safety. Environments where people feel safe to experiment, learn from mistakes, raise ethical flags without fear.
Okay.
Championing universal AI literacy. Not just for techies. Everyone needs a basic understanding to think critically.
Makes sense.
Leaders need to lead with vulnerability. Acknowledge the uncertainty here, build trust through transparency, and crucially, prioritize human-centric values. Anchor strategies not just on efficiency, but on augmenting human judgment, creativity, serving a collective purpose.
And this extends to politics, too.
Definitely. We need an AI-literate, public-demanding leaders who get these implications. Leaders who push for public debate, multi-stakeholder governance, international cooperation, not just techno-nationalism.
And civil society's role.
Critical. NGOs like Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, ACLU as watchdogs, holding companies, governments accountable for AI harms, discrimination. Groups like Partnership on AI, bringing people together on ethics. It may be one of the most powerful ways to mitigate risks, and something that really stands out from the analysis is a fundamental rethinking of AI's core purpose.
Right now, a lot of the focus, the investment, seems to be on automation first. Efficiency, replacing human labor. Which, understandably, makes people anxious about jobs.
Exactly. What if we shifted the central goal to augmentation? Designing AI primarily to enhance and extend human capabilities, not replace them.
Give me an example.
Think of AI as a brilliant paralegal.
helping a lawyer handle more complex cases, not replacing the lawyer. Or a diagnostic assistant, helping a doctor make better diagnoses, not making the diagnosis alone. Or providing real-time info to help an electrician or a teacher do their job better. Empowering, not superseding.
That's a really profound philosophical shift, isn't it? Changing the success metric, not how many human tasks did we automate, but how much did we enhance human capabilities?
While keeping human judgment, creativity, ethical oversight absolutely central.
You know that old saying, what goes around comes around? It actually feels like a surprisingly accurate way to think about AI in the 21st century. Not just a moral saying, but almost a technical description of this global feedback loop. Well, what goes around is basically the digitized sum of us. Our language, art, biases, conflicts, flaws, all that human experience fed into the algorithms.
The input.
Exactly. And what comes around is a statistically optimized, algorithmically transformed reflection of ourselves.
The output.
Yeah. It comes around as hyper-personalized ads, as automated decisions that might carry bias, as generated content blurring reality, as new cultural stories shaping how we see the world.
And that output then influences our behavior, generating the next wave of data.
Right. AI is like a mirror, often a distorted one, amplifying our worst bits sometimes.
So the last laugh, it's not some sentient machine.
No, it's the systemic logic we're building, a logic that, if we're not careful, prioritizes engagement over truth, optimization over well-being, control over empowerment.
So the path forward is about reshaping that loop.
Yeah, it's not one magic bullet. It's this sustained, coordinated effort, technical, cultural, governmental, maybe consider this. The laugh of the algorithm isn't set in stone yet. Its tone will depend on the wisdom, foresight, and courage we use to design and govern this system.
Which is, in the end, just a mirror reflecting ourselves.
So the question for all of us is, what will you do to help make sure it's a laugh of triumphant partnership?
This is DigitView.